Hi everyone and welcome to the Book Refuge. Today I am filming my August TBR, which is also my Summer Fling readathon TBR. So the Summer Fling was created and is mainly hosted by Sarah over at Steeped in Books, and I am going to be one of the hosts for this readathon. I'll have all the other hosts linked down below. Our first live show, kind of setting up the readathon and talking about what books we're going to pick, is going to be tonight, which should be Saturday, July 25th, I believe, or maybe, yeah, that's when this video is going up. Just making sure, yes, Saturday the 25th. It'll be at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. Then there's two other live show dates to keep in mind. There's also going to be a mid-month one on August 15th at 7 p.m. Central, and then one wrapping it up on August 29th at 7 p.m. So those live shows will also be something you want to put on your calendar. What I am going to do today is I'm going to go over all 12 prompts, and I have about 4 to 5 recommendations for each prompt. So in total, I have over like 50 recommendations for you in this video. So I'm going to try to go semi-quickly through those. And then at the end, I'm going to go through what my TBR is. So if you don't care about all these prompts, if this isn't normally a, like if you're not going to do the readathon, you just want to see what I'm reading, you can skip to this timestamp and you'll see what choices I'm picking and what my TBR is, because it's pretty extensive for this month. So we'll see how it goes, because there's 12 prompts, but it's not like I can't read 12 books. And I obviously have it like condensed just a little bit because some of these categories overlap pretty well, but I still wanted to stretch myself since I picked all romance pretty much, which I love. And since I read almost 50 romance books a month, it shouldn't be hard. We'll see. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go through the prompts on this board. And I have behind me many book recommendations that we're going to go through. So the first one we have Down Home Country. So this one is a Western, a country novel, anything that fits kind of into that. And the recommendations I have for this one are, I have In Want of a Wife by Joe Goodman. This is one of like the first Westerns I like ever read. I haven't been reading Westerns too long, but this one is about a mail order bride, basically. And it's about this rancher named Morgan who like used to be like a highwayman basically, but now he's settled down and owns a ranch and he needs a wife. I adore this book. I reread this book every couple years and it is really fun. Joe Goodman, this is part of a series too. I think it starts with The Last Renegade might be the first one. I'm not sure. I've only ever read this one, and I haven't wanted to read the other ones because this one is adorable. Then I have a couple that I haven't read, but they're Westerns that I have on my shelf. So I have A Rogue in Texas by Lorraine Heath. This one says that it is about a duke's son named Grayson Rhodes who leaves London to seek his own fortune in America, and he meets Abby Westland. And the first moment he sees her, he was determined to work in the farm and like win her over. So that just sounds really sweet. I haven't read any of Lorraine Heath's Westerns yet, but I heard they're pretty good. Then I just have to show this one because I love the cover. I know it's super controversial, but if you're someone who's trying to work through some old classics, despite how cringy they might be, I of course have to recommend Savage Thunder by Joanna Lindsey. I mean, I remember seeing this on my mom's shelf when I was a kid, and I just like loved to gasp at all the like crazy covers back then, and now I'm doing it again as an adult. So, if you're looking to read through some of the old ones and you're willing to put up with, some of the crap that was in them, you should check this one out. And then I have a newer purchase that I got that I thought I'd put up since it has cowboy in the title, and that's Catching the Cowboy by Kennedy Fox. This came in my book box that I ordered, and so I thought it would be fun to show. And this one I know is like a friends to lovers. It's also his best friend's little sister, but like they're also friends. and they like haven't seen each other in a long time, and then they come back into each other's lives. So figured I'd hold this up. These are some of the only like westerns that I have, so I figured I'd show them. Next I want to show, I have Big City Life, which these are supposed to be billionaires, take place in a big city, or be like the jet setter lifestyle. And so I have a few recommendations for that. One of them is a book that I recently just read, and it's called Come to Daddy by Brianna Hale, and it is a sugar baby romance. So it's about this girl who, her family died owing someone a lot of money, and the person that she owes money to, his brother, his older brother, wants to kind of save this girl, but he knows she won't just take the money if he offers it to her. So his assistant comes up with this idea that if they could get her to be his sugar baby, he could be giving her money for no reason, except then he meets her and he doesn't want it to be for no reason. So this is a big age gap. It's 22 to 42. I mean, I've read about the same age gap before, so I guess it's not. But this one definitely has the billionaire money thing going on, and it was actually really cute. And the second book in the series is called The Lap of Luxury, and it's actually about that brother. And that one was more fun because it was like the way he's set up in the first book, you're like, how are you going to make me love him? And then I loved him. So those two, that duology by Brianna Hale is a good one for this. Then there's also The Player by Kresley Cole. I read this just like last month, I think. This is book 3 in the Game Maker series, but you really can read them in any order. It's one of those where like you'll know who the couples are, but to me that's not really a spoiler because like it doesn't give away the story that they had with each other. And this one is about Dimitri, who is like a tech genius, and he's like a gazillionaire, and he meets there's this girl named Victoria, aka Vice, who is part of a grifter family, and he's her next mark. So she wants to get him to like marry her and like get his money, only he really wants to marry her, and he's just like throwing money at her. And there's some reasons behind that, but this is delicious. This entire trilogy is very erotic, like it's definitely considered erotic contemporary romance, but the stories are also really intense as well. The first one's kind of a mafia story, but I don't consider the trilogy mafia because each brother is into something different. Like one's into the mafia, one's into politics, and then this one is just a tech genius. But definitely a billionaire romance, very sexy, very fun. You should definitely check it out. Then I have My Brother's Billionaire Best Friend by Max Monroe. I also got this in my book box. I had already read this one and I love it. It's basically what it says. There's this girl named Maybe, which I roll my eyes at her name every time. Sometimes authors just try to get too cute with naming things that I'm just like, I don't know what you're doing. But this girl, she accidentally texts her brother's billionaire best friend, "Will you deflower me?" when she's drunk one night. And it goes from there. She's also maybe kind of sort of not interning with him, but like getting tips from him about her career, and it's very interesting. And then the last one that I wanted to suggest is The Stopover by T.L. Swan. I recently just read the second book in this series as an arc, and it was the funniest, sweetest, most romantic book I'd read in a while, and I read a lot of romances. And so this is the first book in this series. It's called The Miles High Club, and so I thought I would suggest this because I love T.L. Swan, and I would like to continue, like I want to read the other ones in the series. So definitely check that out. So then we have, the next category is authors of color. So I'm just going to list some of these for you because I won't tell you which one that I picked yet, because that's going to be in the part where I tell you what my TBR is. But if you didn't know, because maybe you didn't know some of these authors are authors of color, like I didn't know about a couple of them. There's Whitney G., Kennedy Ryan, Beverly Jenkins, Nalini Singh, Rebecca Weatherspoon, Naima Simone, Helen Wong, and Alexa Martin. I actually have a couple of those books with me. Alexa Martin writes this, I think this is the first one, Intercepted. She writes contemporary romance, and then Helen Wong wrote the Bride Test and the Kiss Quotient, if you're interested in those. And then Leilani Singh, I didn't know that this was a POC. So that just makes me so excited, because the Psy Changeling series, if you're reading that can count as an author of color if you want. Then I have hot and spicy category, which this one is to pick an erotic novel, something sexy, or like, I think it says if it's like a bright red on the cover or something. That might be for Sweet and Clean, sorry. But hot and spicy is to pick more of the erotic category, or super sexy. I have anything by Nikki Sloan. This is the first book in the Blindfold Club, 3 Simple Rules. I have a library copy, so it's super shiny. Also, Nikki Sloan writes Filthy Rich Americans, which would work for hot and spicy and for big city life. This one isn't about anybody super rich, so this one just fits in hot and spicy. But pretty much anything by Nikki Sloan is going to fit in hot and spicy. Then I have Katie Robert as an author for this. Your Dad Will Do. I have, this is book 3 in the Wicked Villain series. Basically any of her self-published works will work for hot and spicy. Also, some of these will work for taboo, which I'm about to do the taboo category, so I'll show this one because this is an age gap with her ex-fiance's husband, so you know that works. And then I also have Leilani Singh for this one, because I'm pretty sure this is going to be super sexy, and this may or may not be the one that I'm going to pick, so I figured I would show this for this category too. Then we have Dark and Dangerous as the next category, and that one is supposed to be taboo, dark, a book with a dark cover, or just something that is really outside of your comfort zone. And so for me, I went with a couple taboo and then a couple other ones. So the first one is, in case you didn't know, if you've heard about this series, the Balance series by Lucia Franco is available again on Amazon after being banned for a while. The author did some extensive changes to put this back in. This is about a gymnast and her coach. The final book just came out like last week, I think. So if you've been maybe wanting to try that series, this could be a good time since it's available more widely now. Then there is Voyeur by Fiona Cole. This entire series is about a sex club where you go to watch it happen. So it's more of like watching live porn than like you're not having sex with people. You can like bring a date there if you want, or something like that. And the first one in the novel is about a girl who her college teacher ends up having watched her at Voyeur. And I think that's really interesting. So I really love the whole Voyeur series. The last book in this series is called Teacher, and it just came out this month, and it was so good. So I really suggest, really any of the books by Fiona Cole are going to be taboo in some way, and they're really good. Then I wanted to show any mafia books fit into this. This also has kind of a dark cover. This is a book from the Camorra Chronicles. It is definitely dark and twisty, and I love it so much. I love it so much. I love Remo and Serafina, and so I have this one because it's so good. But any of the mafia books are gonna work for Dark and Dangerous. Okay, then Sweet and Clean. So this is the fun one. This is one that is the most like outside my comfort zone because I don't really read these type of books too much anymore. But I have some recommendations for you, and then later on you'll see the one that I'm picking. But I picked The Grand Sophie by Georgette Hare, however you say it. This book is adorable. This is about a girl named Sophie Stanton Lacey, who her father has kind of been like dragging her around the country to different places that he was working for the War Office, and he finally wants her to settle down and get a husband, and she wants that too. Like she's fine with whatever. And so she goes to stay with her cousins, and her oldest cousin has been trying to like rein in his family because they've been a little crazy lately, and then Sophie comes and just enchants their life, and it's so good. This is a historical romance. Oh, it's so good. I listened to this on Audible and it made me so happy. And it is like a cousin's romance. but I just think like Pride and Prejudice did that too. So not Pride and Prejudice, but like Jane Austen did that too. So yeah, this is a good one if you want sweet and clean. Then I recently just got a new copy of this book, and so I want to share it. But basically any of Sarah Dessen's. This is a YA contemporary romance, but Just Listen is my favorite young adult contemporary romance. I do not read young adults really anymore at all, but Sarah Dessen I will always make time for. So this book is about a girl named Annabelle. She's the youngest of 3 sisters. She's a junior in college, or in high school, and during her sophomore year, something happened that broke her up from her friend group. And she's a very quiet girl because there's a lot of drama happening with her other sisters, and so she's just always kind of been quiet and kept to herself and just kind of whatever. But now she doesn't have any friends, and so she meets this guy named Owen, who he runs a radio show with like super weird songs and everything, and she kind of picks up a friendship with him, and it's adorable. This one has some tough topics in it. It has a trigger warning for sexual assault, but it's so good. It's so good. It was the first like hard-hitting young adult contemporary I'd ever read, and it stuck with me all these years. And then the other one I want to suggest, I've been seeing a few more people read this on Instagram, and I just wanted to put a plug out there for it because I will never forget this book. I will never forget this book. And that's Lovely War by Julie Berry. This is about the goddess Aphrodite is having to answer to her husband Hephaestus when he catches her having an affair with the god of war. And he kind of puts her on trial. And she is proving that love is real and that the job that she does bringing people together is a worthy job. And it sounds so bizarre. And it is. And it's about 2 different couples who have their own sets of adversity. One of them is an insta-love, but you're seeing it from Aphrodite's point of view, that like she's the one who made this insta-love happen. And it follows these 2 couples through the war and their ups and downs and how they maintain their love for each other and what Aphrodite is doing to help them. And it's so good. It's so good. It is painful and beautiful, and the way that it's written, it's not just written from, it's only written from the gods' point of view. So there's never a point of view from our characters, but it isn't just Aphrodite that we see. There is points of view of Aphrodite, of Hermes, of Hades, of Hephaestus, and it's so good. Like, I just have to bring that up. So any of these will count for sweet and clean. There's no on-the-page sex, but there is romance. There's romance. Let us go to Road Trip. This one was hard for me, but I ended up with some historical romances for this one. So my TBR is pretty heavily historical romance most months. So for this one, I have 3 that are road trips. So the first one I have is The Duke Buys a Bride. This is the 3rd book in the Rogue Files, which is the book that the Virgin and the Rogue and While the Duke Was Sleeping is from. And this one is about, it's actually about the Duke from While the Duke Was Sleeping, and he is trying to kind of like pull his life back together after being in a coma for a while. And he shows up when this girl named Alice is being auctioned at a bride auction, which was a thing that happened if you like wanted a divorce. You could be put up for auction, and like a lover could buy you from your current husband. And she has been with a husband where he was her husband by name only because her parents were dying, and so they like gave her to this guy to take care of her. And now she wants to get out of that because that guy wants to marry someone else. And the Duke shows up and he doesn't realize that this is like a planned event. And so he ends up buying her to like save her. And she's like, "You idiot, I didn't want you to save me." But the guy who was supposed to buy her didn't show up. And then they go on a road trip from there to his home. And it's a road trip. And then there's another one about someone getting a bride, and that is The Bride by Julie Garwood. And I just read this book this week, and it is about Alec Kinsed, and his king told him that he had to marry one of this guy's daughters. And he ends up with Jamie, the youngest daughter of this guy, and she is spunky and crazy and amazing. And they go on a road trip from her home in England to his home in Scotland. The road trip isn't too much a part of the book, but it's such a like change going from where she was living to living with him, and then she really just transforms his whole life. And it's so cute because it's written with that thing in the 90s where like it's written it's funny. Like it's so funny. And so the thing to remember is like you'll see Alec kind of treat her in a certain way that would be like really frustrating, but then to remember that like this guy doesn't say what he means, and a lot of it is meant with humor, or like he doesn't realize how deep he is in with this woman, and I think that it's adorable. And then the last one is A Week to Be Wicked by Tessa Dare. This is book 2 in the Spindle Cove series, and this is about Colin Sandhurst and Minerva Haywood, and she needs to get to Scotland, and so the only way to do it is for them to like fake an elopement so that she can travel with him and not have her reputation ruined. And then when they get there, they're going to pretend they changed their mind, but they end up falling for each other along the way. So there's a road trip. So there's the road trip category for us. Then we have Friends to Lovers. So first, I wanted to put up Ringmaster by Brianna Hale. I realized that I had some Brianna Hale ones for this because I love her writing. And this is one of her like less steamy books. So if you want to give this a try and you don't want it to be like full on erotic, this is not erotic. I would call this a normal like romance. It's a little bit, it's supposed to be like contemporary kind of, but because it's about a circus, it feels more like old school, and it takes place in like England and a traveling circus. And we meet this girl who her father is beating her and she runs away. And just as this is all happening, this guy who owns a circus is like riding by on his horse. And so he rescues her from her father, and he tells her like, you can come work for my circus. And so she's only 17 when this starts. And this book takes place over time. So if you're someone who doesn't want there to be underage, like nothing happens before she's 18. There's about a 10-year age gap. And it's really sweet because she learns to trust. She falls in love with all the people in this circus. And it's one of those where like by the time anything happens between them, like everyone wants there to be. Like the people that they work with, this guy's parents, like they all want him to be with her. And I think it's so cute. Like I really like that. I like when there's a relationship that like they're just friends. Like they're so friends by this point. They do they come up with a circus act together that they're performing, and it's really adorable. It's her like newest book, her most recent book, and I loved it. So I would definitely call this one Friends to Lovers because they are friends for a really long time before anything happens. Then I have to mention The Deal by Elle Kennedy. This is about a girl named Hannah and a guy named Garrett, and Hannah was raped when she was in high school, and since then she hasn't been able to get an orgasm with a guy. And so her friend, she is interested in a new guy, and she meets Garrett in her class, and he needs tutoring so he can stay on the hockey team, and he promises to give her like help getting a guy if she will tutor him. And she agrees, but it ends up being more of like he starts teaching her about sex and her body and helping her claim her like identity back. And I love it. I love Garrett. He is amazing. And so Friends to Lovers in here. I also have Him by Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy. And this is a male-male hockey romance. And it's two guys that were friends in high school. And then at hockey camp one year, they fool around, and the one guy from that experience realizes that he's gay, and the other one just kind of goes back to his life because he was like, oh, that was a fun exchange, not realizing that his friend now like can't ever be around him because he realized he's in love with him. And then they meet back up. It's like 3 or 4 years later. Yeah, 4 years later at that like same hockey camp, and something happens. and I love this book. It was my like first male romance, and I love it. I love it so much. Woo. Then I wanted to bring up The Friend Zone by Kristen Callahan. It Is What It Is. This is a football romance. And then The Addicted by Kristen Becker Ritchie. And this is about two addicts. She's a sex addict and he's an alcoholic, and they've been friends. And so they decide to fake date so that they can have their addictions. And this is a dark, hard series to read, but it leads into, like, it's so emotional, and just like watching them go through things and grow and become who they're meant to be. And then their family is amazing, and it leads into just so many things, but it's amazing. All right, then I have diversity. Okay, for this one, I just have to tell them. So for diversity, I have a few different ways of diversity. So I have Hate to Want You by Alicia Rye. This is written by an author of color, as well as it is a hate to love about these two like mafia families. There is Zenny by Rebecca Weatherspoon. This involves two bisexual characters, and there is pegging in this book, and it's pretty hot. And this is about this girl who her aunt dies and leaves her a butt ton of money if she will marry this guy. And it's pretty hot, and so they have a marriage of convenience, and it's really hot. Queen Move by Kennedy Ryan. This is a childhood friends to lovers. This is a second chance romance maybe, as well as author of color for this. Then there's Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This is a male romance. And also fake dating trope. And then Dirty Tactics by Emma Sala, and I think this is a best friend's little sister, and this is a biracial couple. So there's some different kinds of diversity if you want to check those out. Disability rep, I have some different kinds of disability rep as well. So we have The Duke by Kerrigan Byrne. So this book is about a war hero who's missing a hand. Then I have to talk about The Madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie. Ian is on the autism spectrum. This book is getting talked about a lot, and I'm so happy because it's so good. He was actually put in a mental asylum because he saw something that he shouldn't have, and since he was already considered a little bit mad, he was put into an asylum to hide his father's crimes. And then later on, he gets released by his oldest brother, who is kind of his, like, protector or whatever. But Ian, he's pretty damn smart on his own, and as soon as he sees Beth, who's a widow, he has to have her. And it starts off one of my favorite series I've read this year. It's so good. Then there is The Year We Fell Down by Serena Bowen. This is about starts her, I can't remember the name of the series, but it's the beginning of a college series. And it's kind of cool because like all of Serena Bowen's worlds are created. So she has like Him that she did with Elle Kennedy, and then she has this series by herself, and then it leads into her Brooklyn Bruiser series, which has people from this series when they're adults, like in professional hockey, and I really, really love it. But this one is about this girl who, she has a hockey injury and her spinal cord is like bruised, and so she's in a wheelchair for her first year of college, and so is the captain of the hockey team there because he's been injured. And so they're on the same floor that's like they call it the Gimper floor, and they become friends and they like play video games and hang out, and but they're both kind of like, he is temporarily handicapped and she is maybe going to be handicapped forever. We don't know. This book is good. It's really good. And then another one by Kerrigan Byrne, The Duke with the Dragon Tattoo, and this one is a guy has amnesia. And I don't want to talk too much about it because this is the final book in a series, and I'm almost like to this book. But this guy like he woke up in a mass grave. He wasn't dead like he was suspected to be. So he woke up in this mass grave not remembering anything about himself. And currently he is he's like a phantom, not a lawman, like a highwayman, and it's really good. So I decided to put, you know, a couple different kinds of physical and mental disability rep in this one. So then we have two more categories. We have old school historical, which, come on, all of mine are. But I want to talk about The Black Lion by Jude Deveraux. This is one I've been wanting to read, so I wanted to show it. And I hear that it is like the first historical that Sarah McLean read. It's from 1980. It even has a map inside. Coolio. And this one is about someone called the Black Lion. And he meets this girl named, what's her name? Leonie. So he's like, oh, it's meant to be. And then I have The Beast of Beswick. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. Also, anything Jennifer Ashley, anything Eloisa James, or, you know, anything that's historical. Okay, you know. This one is like, I don't gotta convince you on this. And then the last category is read a category romance. This is either Harlequin or something else if you're in a different country. And the way Harlequin works is they have different tracks. And so there's Harlequin Desire, Harlequin Heartwarming, Historical, Intrigue. And so you can kind of pick which type you want. And then there are these like short books, like 200 to 250 pages long. And so what I actually did is I'm going to go, spoiler alert, I'm going to go with one of these tracks, and I will tell you in just a minute. I purchased one of the tracks, or one of the books box set, and I'm going to try to read like all four of them, because all four of them together is only like 600 pages. So now I'm going to tell you what my TBR is and how I am making this all work. So for the first two that I have to start with is I have a buddy read that I do monthly. You can join my Discord for this. The link is always down below. And the two books that got voted on were The Beast of Beswick. So I'll be reading this, and I'm reading this one for, this one actually isn't part of my list. So it's an extra one for me because I ended up filling all my categories, and then I was like, oh, I need to read The Beast of Beswick. But this one is one of our read picks. And then the other one that was voted on is Betrothed. And so I'm doing this one for Sweet and Clean because I doubt there'll be any on-page sex in this book. And this one is about a girl who's getting chosen to be the king's wife, but she may be in love with someone else. So this one was picked as one of our buddy reads. Okay, now going down the list. I picked Catching the Cowboy to go for Down Home Country and Friends to Lovers. So this is going to fit two categories. Then I am going to do The Stopover by T.L. Swan, and that one is going to cover big city life. Then I am going to read Slave to Sensation. I'm going to start the Psy Changeling series because this whole series is on Audible Escape. So I'll probably listen to this one. I really enjoyed listening to Immortals After Dark by Cressley Cole. And so I want to do this. And so this one is going to cover authors of color as well as hot and spicy. This is what I'm going to read for that. Then I'm going to read, what am I reading for? Okay, then I'm going to read The Black Lion for Dark and Dangerous. I'm doing this for kind of like the darker cover, as well as this one I also have as old school historical, so I'll have some for both. Then I'm going to do A Week to Be Wicked, which is going to be my road trip book. I've wanted to continue this series for a while, and this seems like a good reason to do it. I also love that this is red, white, and blue. I love that. Then I'm planning to read Queen Move by Kennedy Ryan. This is an author of color. This is a diversity book, and this is also a Friends to Lovers. So I'm going to read Queen Move. I'm very excited. I've heard really good things. I'm excited to read that book. I haven't read a Kennedy Ryan before, and I'm really excited to get into it. Then I'm going to do The Duke with the Dragon Tattoo. Also, all of Kerrigan Byrne's books are on Audible Escape. I've been listening to this whole series. I need to listen to the Scott Beds His Wife before I get to this one. But I'm very excited because I already know who the Rook is. You figure it out as you read through the series, and I'm so excited to finish this series in August because, oh, these men are so tortured and just beautiful, and it just gives me so many feels. I love it. And then the last one, let me make sure I got everything. Yes. The last thing for my Harlequin books, I am going to go with Harlequin Dare because that's supposed to be their erotic branch, and I'm going to read the June box set. So it has 4 books in it. I'm going to purchase that on my Kindle, and I'm going to read those 4 books for my Harlequin. I guess technically if I only get through one of them, that's fine because I'll have read a Harlequin, but I just really wanted to get the whole box set and see if I like it. So there you go. These are going to end up being my 9 picks for 12 prompts, I think is how it's going to work. Well, plus the Harlequin box set. And I'm so excited. So make sure you check out down below all the info. Check out the other people who are going to be hosting that first live show, which is tonight, is going to be on Sarah at Steeped in Books channel. I won't be in that one, but I'll be watching. I have family in town, so I'm going to watch it with my sister, but I won't be like on it tonight. But I will be on the end of the month wrap-up one, I think. But I'm so excited. Make sure to follow us on Instagram for different fun challenges and updates. I'd love to hear what you guys are reading, and let me know if you want any different recommendations for any of the categories. I'd love to help. Thank you so much for watching. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week, and you can watch some more of them right now. Bye!